For most of its history, the World Cup sold itself as the people's tournament, the global game open to everyone. In 2026, that promise is colliding with a number. Up to $6,730 for a single ticket to the final. In the next 12 minutes, I am going to explain how World Cup tickets got this expensive, who decided it, and why even FIFA may be starting to regret it. Start with the headline change. For the first time at a World Cup, FIFA is using dynamic pricing. That is, the same demand-based system airlines and concert promoters use, where the price of a ticket moves up and down in real time based on how badly people want it. The hotter the demand, the higher the price climbs. On paper, the range sounds reasonable. Tickets can start as low as $60 for an early group stage game. But that floor is a marketing number. The reality, for the matches people actually want, is dramatically higher. And it can change by the hour. Take the United States team's opening match. An upper-tier seat, not the front row, was listed at $1,940 at face value. That is for one game, in the cheaper section, before fees. For many families, that single ticket costs more than their entire monthly budget for everything. Now, the top of the range. FIFA initially priced the most expensive final tickets at $6,730. To put that in perspective, the most expensive ticket at the 2022 World Cup in Qatar was around $1,600. In one cycle, the ceiling more than quadrupled. And that is just the primary market, the tickets sold directly by FIFA. On the resale market, prices are their own story. The average, cheapest available ticket to any World Cup match hit around $567. Standard group games trade between $650 and $1,100, depending on the teams and the city. So how did we get here? The first force is simply demand. This is the biggest World Cup ever in the world's richest sports market, with limited seats. When supply is fixed and demand is enormous, prices rise. That part is basic economics. The second force is the decision to maximize it. Dynamic pricing is not a neutral tool. It is a choice to extract the highest price the market will bear at every moment. FIFA looked at the demand and decided to capture as much of it as possible, in real time, seat by seat. The third force is the resale ecosystem. Platforms and brokers buy and flip tickets, adding their own margin on top. For a tournament this big, in a market with deep secondary platforms, that layer can push the real cost a fan pays far above face value. Now here is where it gets interesting, because the strategy may be backfiring. The pricing got so aggressive that it triggered a legal response. The Attorneys General of New York and New Jersey opened an investigation into FIFA's ticket practices. When regulators get involved, the reputational cost starts to rival the revenue. There is also a basic product problem. Dynamic pricing maximizes revenue per seat, but it can leave premium sections half empty if it overshoots. Empty, expensive seats at the biggest event on Earth are a terrible image, broadcast to billions. The optics can undo the gains. And there is the deeper cost, the one that does not show up on a balance sheet. The most passionate fans, the ones who give the tournament its atmosphere and its soul, are exactly the ones most likely to be priced out. Replace them with whoever can pay the most, and you risk hollowing out the very thing that makes the World Cup special. This is the tension at the center of modern live events. The same algorithm that maximizes short-term revenue can erode long-term loyalty. FIFA is running that experiment in front of the entire planet, with the most beloved tournament in sports as the test case. So, when you see that $60 starting price advertised, remember what sits behind it. A real-time engine designed to charge each fan the absolute maximum they will pay. A resale market stacked on top, and a final ticket that costs more than a used car. The People's Tournament now has a price most people cannot pay. Whether FIFA pulls back or doubles down will tell you a lot about where the sport is heading. For now, the lesson is simple. When the price moves in real time, the house is optimizing against you. Watch the number and watch who it leaves out. If this was useful, subscribe. And at valventus.com, we help e-commerce brands actually use AI to sell more. To understand how strange dynamic pricing feels at a World Cup, remember what it replaced. For generations, tickets had fixed face values, set in advance, often with deliberate efforts to keep some seats affordable for ordinary fans. The price you saw was the price everyone paid. Dynamic pricing demolishes that. Now, the price is a moving target, recalculated constantly by an algorithm whose only goal is to find the maximum you will tolerate. The mechanics are worth understanding because they explain the outrage. The system watches demand in real time. When interest in a match spikes, prices rise, sometimes within minutes. When demand softens, they can fall. The fan is no longer buying at a set rate. They are negotiating against a machine that knows far more about the market than they do, and whose entire purpose is to extract the most it can. Airlines and concert promoters have used this for years. So why the backlash at the World Cup? Because the World Cup carries a different promise. It markets itself as the global game, the people's tournament, a celebration that belongs to everyone. Applying ruthless, revenue-maximizing pricing to an event wrapped in that language feels like a betrayal in a way that a flight or a pop concert does not. The numbers make the tension concrete. A $60 starting price sounds inclusive, but it is the exception, available for the least desirable early matches. The seats fans actually want climb fast. An upper-tier ticket to the U.S. opener at $1,940. A final reaching $6,730. The advertised floor and the real cost live in completely different worlds. Then there is the resale market layered on top, which amplifies everything. Brokers and platforms buy tickets and flip them, adding their own margin. On the secondary market, the average cheapest ticket to any match reached around $567, with popular games running far higher. For many fans, the resale market is where they actually end up shopping, and it is even less forgiving than FIFA's own prices. The legal response tells you the strategy may have gone too far. When the New York and New Jersey Attorneys General open an investigation into your ticket practices, you have crossed from aggressive into politically dangerous. Regulators rarely move on pricing unless the public anger is loud enough to demand it. The probe is a signal that the model has generated not just revenue, but reputational and legal risk. And there is a product risk that pure revenue math ignores. If dynamic pricing overshoots, premium sections sit empty. Empty, expensive seats at the biggest event on Earth, broadcast to billions, are a terrible image. They suggest greed and miscalculation at the same time. The atmosphere suffers, the broadcast looks worse, and the long-term brand takes a hit that may outweigh the extra dollars squeezed from a single tournament. Underneath the economics is a question about who the World Cup is for. The most passionate supporters, the ones who travel, sing, and fill stadiums with noise, are exactly the fans most likely to be priced out. Replace them with corporate buyers and wealthy tourists who can absorb any price, and you may keep the revenue while hollowing out the soul of the event. The algorithm optimizes for money, not for atmosphere. There is a defense of dynamic pricing worth stating fairly. Demand for these matches is enormous, and supply is fixed. Without dynamic pricing, the gap between face value and true market value simply flows to scalpers and brokers instead of to FIFA. In that view, dynamic pricing just captures value that was always going to be extracted, and at least directs it to the organizer rather than the secondary market. It is a real argument, even if it is cold comfort to a priced-out fan. But the deeper issue is that pricing shapes culture. When a tournament becomes a luxury product, it slowly changes who attends, who feels it belongs to them, and who passes the passion to the next generation. The short-term revenue is easy to measure. The long-term erosion of the fan base is not. Organizations optimizing quarter by quarter rarely price in the cost of losing the very community that made them valuable. For fans navigating 2026, the practical advice is unglamorous but useful. Buy early, before the algorithms and the hype fully spin up. Target less popular matches and cities. Be wary of the resale market's hidden premiums. And go in understanding that the advertised low price is bait, while the real cost is whatever the machine decides your desire is worth on the day you click. So the $6,730 ticket is not just a number. It is a statement about where the sport is heading. The World Cup is running a live experiment in front of the entire planet on how far it can push pricing before the backlash, the regulators, or the empty seats force a retreat. Watch which way it goes, because the answer will shape the price of being a fan for years to come. Step back, and the ticket story is really about who a sport belongs to. For most of its history, the World Cup sold itself as everyone's tournament. Dynamic pricing quietly rewrites that promise, replacing the idea of access with the logic of the highest bidder. The change is not announced. It arrives one price point at a time, until one day, the people who built the culture can no longer afford to be in the room. There is a slow-burning risk in that for FIFA itself. The passionate fans who get priced out are the ones who create the atmosphere, the noise, and the images that make the broadcast compelling. Replace them entirely with whoever can pay the most, and the product on screen subtly degrades. The revenue is captured today. The erosion of the spectacle is paid for over many tournaments, and it is much harder to see coming. For now, the experiment continues in full view of the world. How far can pricing be pushed before the backlash, the regulators, or the empty premium seats force a retreat? The answer will not just set the cost of attending a World Cup. It will signal how the entire live events industry intends to treat the fans who made it valuable. Watch the ticket prices, because they are telling you who the future is being built for.